Please don't cancel me. This is a lot less cute than I thought it would be.
Can you milk a guinea pig?
I noticed that we have nothing on this hot dog, which does viscerally upset me. Yeah. No, we're adopting the Mandarin term for a croissant. I was powerless to the yogurt land, is what you're saying. Yeah. We gotta do it.
I'm Hank Green.
I'm Josh Scherer.
And this is Ask Hank Anything. Hello, I'm Hank Green, and I love to be asked questions. So I created a whole show about that, where I try to learn about people from the questions they ask me. And today I'm joined by award-winning cookbook author, chef, and also host of Last Meals that I was once on, the mythical chef. It's Josh. Chef Josh, how are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. You missed 2009 JV basketball most improved player for
2009 JV basketball most improved player?
I actually thought I was already kind of good, and I didn't know that I had improved that much. So it kind of, got me to think, how bad was I before? But
look, maybe that wasn't what you were destined for.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I think I was destined to be here to ask you questions.
You have asked me a bunch of questions. There's a bunch of, there's some food-related ones.
There are some. Food is the ones.
It might be that that's sort of an important part of your life.
I think it is. It was basketball and now it's food.
It must be so strange to have a lot of your life revolve around the whims of people. And also just like you ask people constantly like, tell me your best food. And it's always different. Nobody's ever the same.
Yeah.
You'd think we're all pretty the same, that maybe we'd all want the same foods.
I think though, if you dig deeper, you find out that we all do want the same foods in certain ways. I think that's where I really love food, is trying to like find those similarities. Like everyone around the world eats, say like fried chicken. Like fried chicken in noodles might just be the most commonly loved foods. And I think you can like find all those similarities within them.
Yeah.
And then through those differences, I think you can also use that as a lens to understand like where it happened. You know what I mean? Like if you think about, this isn't gonna be a long tangent, but like bear with me here. Like the reason like China never developed dairy despite the fact that they had a ton of cows was because they get everything that Western Europe started doing with dairy, China was doing with soy.
Gotcha.
So basically having like protein-rich, umami-rich foods. Western Europe did that with cheese. China did that with soy by making tofu and
the
by
fermented
making
soys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's cool. It's like both cultures found a way to the same place using very different products.
We're going to talk about that and more. I got a stack of questions here in Puzzle the Pelican's pouch. Pick the top one.
Just the top. Okay, top one.
You got yeah. I mean, you have so many good ones. It'd be fine in any order. But let's do
top
that.
One. Oh no, this is the one I was most worried about. Hank Green, is human meat vegan?
Oh.
Because there's a case. There's a case.
Oh, well, if you think there's a case, maybe you should just tell me the case. Like what I found when I was looking into this, what vegans think is vegan isn't like set in stone.
Yeah.
There isn't like a definite rule. Like some vegans are kind of okay with honey. More likely not. More vegans are okay with like figs, which do involve the death of a wasp. Like some figs have the internal pollinization and the wasp never escapes.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a wasp in there, even though it's been broken down.
There could be a whole episode on the fact that every time we eat figs, we're kind of just eating wasp carcasses too. That's a pretty fun one.
And also
so
like
crunchy.
there aren't any plants that are made without the labor of animals.
No.
You know. Tell me what do you appear to have thought about this already.
What the fuck?
You answered the question.
So a lot of ethical vegans, which I really love people who have sort of like ethical frameworks of their diets, like Jainist lacto-ovo vegetarians, I think are really cool because they don't eat anything that would kill the host. So like no root vegetables and also no meat. I think that stuff's cool. So I've met a lot of ethical vegans who are like, this is about animal sovereignty. The idea that a living creature with a central nervous system needs to be able to like make its own decisions, and by putting them into animal slavery, whether that's to make honey or to extract their milk or their eggs, that's unethical. Certainly to kill them is unethical. However, if a human is able to fully consent in a sane way that they wish to use their body to nourish another, I think that could be conducive to ethical veganism.
As I was thinking about this, my first thought was, well, we haven't had to answer this question, so we haven't answered it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions like that are more sort of like about human stuff, where it's like, well, we have a very strong taboo. Like, there's not really any stronger taboo than no cannibalism.
Yeah, is that completely justified?
I had this thought. So, for example, there's lots of ways to eat a part of a person that would not even significantly harm the person.
Yeah.
So, lots of cultures drink blood for nutrition. And you donate blood to help another person, who needs a blood transfusion. And that's like a normal, good, positive thing to do in the world. And it doesn't hurt you. in any substantial, lasting way. So you could see, like, just is the drinking of human blood for nutrition cannibalism?
Wow.
Like, does the person have to die for it to be cannibalism? Can it be like a donate your body to the barbecue after your death kind of situation?
Yeah, I think that's really nice. I think I'd smoke up really nicely. I've basically been internally brining myself with like Mountain Dew and hot dogs for a while.
Not how it works.
A grass-fed cow tastes different than a corn-fed
You always
cow.
tell me that you're not healthy. Every time I talk to you, you talk about how unhealthy you are while your arms are out.
Yeah,
and
no,
I
this is just my veins screaming for help.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, would you donate your body to the barbecue?
100%. If I was not worried about the judgment of others,
Sure.
and I understand the irony of being in front of millions,
Right.
Yeah, I don't find it weird at all. There's a really fantastic book by Caitlin Dowdy, or Ask a Mortician on YouTube.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called From Here to Eternity: The Search for the Good Death, where she analyzes a bunch of different cultures' death practices, and she talks about a lot of the early writings against like cannibalism from indigenous cultures who some of them believed that why would I not use my flesh to nourish my family during the winter? That's crazy. It's a waste. And then a lot of the early writings were from very like Christian Catholic missionaries saying this is against God. And then there's of course the biological imperative of what's like prions were a problem, very scary thing that can happen from
It's
eating a human
easier to
brain.
get diseases by eating people because you can get all the same diseases as other people.
As somebody died of botulism from 7-Eleven nacho cheese and I still eat it. You know what I mean? The risks are there. The risks are there and we take them. That's
There's
life.
a continuum of risk and we should
100%.
place ourselves on the safe part of it.
Yeah, I
7-Eleven
generally
cheese
agree
is
with
still
that.
okay, but I'm not going to eat a human brain.
Any
Don't-
cheese that comes out of a fountain that just goes, "Ugh." I don't know if you ever pressed the nacho cheese
I
button.
have.
Yeah. It's not a thin stream.
Yeah. I love a rolling food. You
Same.
know, I live in Montana. We got some good gas stations.
Yeah.
It's part of our culture. And just the things that go back and forth. And it's like, there's a thing called a tornado.
What?
And it's just a long tube of something happening in there. It's amazing. So I'm not sure how they construct them, but
No, but I love that they, with their equipment, had to write themselves into the corner of all of our food has to be tube shaped because it has to spin.
Yeah.
So they're like, taquitos, we got that. That's great. Like, what about a hamburger? Like, well, we got to make a tube.
we got to make a hamburger into a tube,
And
which they
did.
did.
They did. And it was just fine.
That's great. I've had worse hamburgers.
Would you eat human meat?
Ooh, I don't think that I would, but I think that the reason is not me.
Yeah.
Like I would, but there's many ways in which I live my life that it is more about like, this isn't a big deal for me and I'd rather just sort of not upset other people.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the hill I'm going to die on, to be fair. Yeah, I'm not going to. I don't think I will ever do it.
I feel like a fair number of people would get carved off. And it was just like, you wouldn't want the one sentence that people most know you for to be something that is very scary and objectionable to a lot of people.
I think that's how Reza Aslan lost his CNN show.
He ate a man?
He did not eat a man, but he was gonna eat a man.
Okay.
Because his whole show was about deconstructing religious taboos.
Yeah.
And he went to some culture that believed in eating the dead.
Oh, okay.
And he was, I think, gonna do it. And the producers were like, absolutely not. We can't
Yeah.
show that on CNN. And he
Yeah.
was like, this is the whole thesis of the show.
Super strong taboo. Because the taboo is so strong, we don't have to figure out the answer to the question. But as I was thinking about this, freaked my bean a little bit, thinking about vegan approaches to lab-made meat. Now, if it's purely about ethics and consent, then even if the meat was made in the lab, the original animal that those cells were taken from did not consent.
Sure.
So maybe the only vegan lab-made meat would be like a human who agreed to have their cells be the basis for the lab-made meat.
I would like to volunteer to be the first human to agree to have my cells turned into lab-made meat. Please use my belly. I would like you to cure it and smoke it into Josh Bacon. Thank you so much. Coming to a breakfast burrito near you. Carl's
Yeah.
Jr. Let's do the collab.
Oh, man. So I did have that thought, and I was like, kinda. Like, I think that there is, in addition to just the consent and the thinking, feeling, being thing, there's some other, I think, probably concerns that people might have.
You could say that.
It might, there's an ick factor that I don't think even, we have to accept that a lot of our moralities or our behaviors at least aren't really based on morality or values. It's based on like what feels appropriate, what like has been spoken into my ear by the culture as a thing that is okay and a thing that is not.
How much of a duty do you feel to try and buck that idea and try and get down to an actual morally cohesive nugget? Because the animals that we choose to eat and the animals we choose to not eat are very, very arbitrary.
Totally arbitrary. Once you start thinking about it, yeah.
I love guinea pig is one of the best meats I've ever eaten. Very commonly eaten in Ecuador. It's called cuy. And they raise guinea pigs for meat. We got it from an ethical guinea pig meat raiser. That is so common. They didn't have pork and cows those in indigenous communities. I understand that we now have those things.
Mm-hmm.
I know people I knew someone that had a pet pig in college. He fed it peanut butter.
Yeah.
You know, we had a great time. The
That
pig
sounds
is cute. Pigs are incredibly smart animals.
Yeah.
Way smarter than guinea pigs.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd say guinea pigs are tastier. Please don't cancel me.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of if you can milk them.
I think.
Can you milk a guinea pig?
I've
you
never
can.
tried.
It's got to be possible. They make milk. They're mammals.
I was once, used to be a journalist. I used to write more seriously about things.
Yeah.
And I wanted to work on a story about pig milk. And my editor was like, that's an awesome idea. Why don't we drink pig milk? And I called the farmer and I said, hey man, why don't we drink pig milk? He goes, you ever had pig milk? I go, no. He goes, it tastes like shit. I said, well, that's going to be a short story.
Yeah.
So let's just.
He's like, I got right up on that thing.
Literally, yeah. Terrible, man.
Hello, it's Future Hank with great news. Both Josh and I were totally correct, though this is not the whole story. So yeah, pig milk does not taste particularly good. It's extremely rich and not refreshing, with a much higher fat and protein content than cow milk and a much lower sugar content. And there's a reason for this. It's so that the piglets can grow super fast and be done with nursing more quickly. Now, pigs do not have like 36 nipples, but they do have somewhere between 10 and 16, and that does actually make milking harder, but that's not the biggest reason we don't milk them. Pigs are also much less chill than cows or goats or sheep, and they don't tend to stand still easily for the milking process. This makes sense to me, having met pigs. There's also some thinking that people have been aware for quite some time, whether just through taboos or whether through explicit knowledge, that humans and pigs share a lot of diseases. And so especially before pasteurization, people had acquired some amount of evidence or at least social norms around not getting too up close and personal with a pig. There's also the reality that at least the way they tend to be kept is dirty, and their teats are often covered in literal crap, which no one in history has ever found appetizing. And finally, as I said earlier, pigs use that high fat and protein milk specifically so that the piglets can grow quickly and nursing can be done with in short order, and so the amount of time that sows produce milk is quite short. And when you got sheep, goats, and cows all producing milk that's way easier to get and tastes better, nobody's gonna milk a pig. And this episode of Ask Hank Anything is brought to you by Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you create custom budgets, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your money more effectively all in one place. All that to say, Rocket Money helps you stay informed when it comes to your overall financial situation, and here at Ask Hank Anything, we like to stay informed. Rocket Money allows you to monitor your financial health at a bird's eye view and also offers high-level and in-depth account insight, allowing you the option to get quick information at a glance or the opportunity for a full deep dive. The personalized spending insights can help you uncover your spending patterns, allowing you to find areas you can optimize or spot habits you might like to change. You can even receive weekly and monthly spending reports to absolutely ensure that you are staying on top of your financial activity. To prevent you from having to frequently check the app to stay in the loop, you can also receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, low balances, and more. Rocket Money can make sure you stay informed and relieve some of the stress of keeping up with your finances. Rocket Money is free to download, but you can get a free premium trial when you sign up with my link. Go to rocketmoney.com/AskHank or scan the QR code. I'll also leave a link in the description. Oh, you asked me a very hard question, which I should have just dodged. We got on a tangent and I should have been like, oh, thank God I don't have to answer that question. It is a thing that I try to do. It is a good thing to do. But I think that it is a massive burden to take it on yourself and say, I will not listen to the rules of my culture. I will examine all of the decisions that we make, and then I will make the decisions that I think are. And I do that in some cases, but meat is a way in which I'm like, I just have to listen to the culture.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately, my choice to eat meat, which is a choice, doesn't feel that way, is not ethically examined. Like, if every time I did it, I ethically examined it, I would never do it.
100%.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to be a lot more hard and fast of like, no, this needs to be morally cohesive and I need to be the person. To me, getting older is the wisdom to say, like, sometimes you have to accept things the way they are for a sort of
we're not, well, I don't really feel like less of an individual, I think, than most people do.
Interesting.
I feel very cultural. I feel very like all of the parts of me are constructed from other people.
That's interesting because you are such a singular person. Like more people know of you and more people would say that you are a unique person. The group survey answer would be very different from your own answer.
I think
of is Hank Green an individual?
I think that's very silly. I think that all of us are, that I'm definitely not more of an individual. I think that is purely through familiarity. Like we always feel that with people we're more familiar with. But actually all the people who you're on the subway with and you're like, who are all these sheep just going through their lives? Like they are just as rich and varied and peculiar and thoughtful as you. Yeah. It's just, we don't have the capacity to think of all of that. But man, we've already gone everywhere. Is there anywhere else to go from that? But I have a big stack of questions there. And so I want you to ask more of them. But do you have another one?
No, not at all. I would love to ask another question.
That was a good start.
That was a great start. What is next? Oh, this one comes into play a lot in my life. How Englishly or non-Englishly are we supposed to pronounce non-English words in English? Or simply put, how much do we giada di Laurentiis, using that as a verb in our lives? Are you familiar with giada di Laurentiis?
No.
Oh, everyday Italian, incredible Food Network show.
I figured that's what it was.
But she is an Italian woman. I believe she was born in Italy to the di Laurentiis family. And she hosted an Italian cooking show on Food Network. And every time she pronounced the word spaghetti, she had an American English accent throughout everything, but then would say like ricotta, spaghetti. And people would always give her crap for it. But Italian was her native language. And that is how you pronounce those words.
Yeah.
You know, bruschetta as opposed to bruschetta. You know, and I get accused.
Your accent is very good.
Grazie mille.
I mean, not that I know.
Signore Hank.
It feels very good to me.
Well, no, I legitimately, I try to do my best to pronounce certain like international food terms in what can be at least my closest approximation of their native language. I don't try and make it super performative, but I guess that's where this question comes down to, because especially with languages that have very different sounds than English. Chinese and Vietnamese are two that I'm thinking of right now. I've always wondered where the line is, you know, of saying like tortilla versus just tortilla, and especially as opposed to tortilla. We honor the double L with the soft Y sound, but
sometimes we don't.
Sometimes some people don't. But then those people become like, you know, the butt of jokes. And the people who say tortilla become the butt of people jokes if that's not their native accent. But there's a sweet spot of tortilla.
Which
that
is
people
fine.
like. And how do we know where to shade?
Well, welcome to language. One of the most complicated things that people do. It's not an area of expertise of mine. But definitely there are certain constructions and sounds that are more familiar to native speakers. And then when you borrow a word from another language, whether it's a food or not, you bring that into your language, you generally replace the more difficult or less familiar constructions and sounds with more familiar and easier constructions and sounds. So you don't say croissant, you say croissant.
The Brits do say croissant though.
I know.
Which is fascinating.
I sometimes get the sense that Americans think they're the only ones who do this. And they're like, oh, how American to say croissant. And I'm like, every single language that says croissant doesn't say croissant. Now, like some get closer. Like German kind of sounds like croissant. But I actually had a bunch of people send me them saying croissant in their native language.
Didn't.
I did.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear. Oh, I'm so excited to hear this.
Okay, let's see if I can find it.
I did this once with the word poutine. I'll tell you all about it later. It goes into this.
I didn't know that was one that many people have.
Nor I. Well, the Canadian accents, they get real uppity about them.
Croissant. 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 羊角包, which literally means sheep's horn bread.
Oh, that's so much cooler. No, we're adopting the Mandarin term for a croissant. It's not even French. It was invented in Vienna. It's called viennoiserie in France. It might as well be Chinese. We're doing sheep's horn bread.
Sheep's horn bread.
Hell yeah. Well, solved.
So it's obviously a thing that everybody does. And the idea that you wouldn't do it is relatively new. So the idea that you would take a word and say, no, I'm going to say it the way that like was original to the language, it tends to be only in like very cosmopolitan, high status cultures, like oftentimes cultures that maybe have some guilt about their colonialist roots. So you could see that happening more in those places. And that is fascinating to me. And oftentimes in those places, there will be two dominant pronunciations. There will be the one that is like of the language, and then there will be a pronunciation that's like croissant, where like, I'm still not gonna say like croissant, but I might say, can I get the like pain au chocolat? Where I'm like a little bit saying
you're not
it.
saying pain. You're
not like saying pain au chocolat. Yeah, pain au chocolat.
But you still wouldn't say croissant.
But I might say croissant. but I wouldn't say croissant.
Croissant.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like there's like a version. And then interestingly, like tortilla is fascinating because that's a regional accent that we make fun of generally. You know, it's like an accent of the like lower status people of the nation. And so it's like, ha ha ha, they don't know anything. But we're also saying tortilla wrong.
Yeah. Is this just our general propensity to want to make fun of those who are perceived lower status and perceived higher status?
Or like there's something very cringe about someone trying to make themselves look higher status.
Yeah.
By being like croissant. Like I spent time in France.
Yeah,
I went abroad.
Barcelona and the tortilla de española.
Yeah.
But man, that's fascinating.
Language is such a subtle and hidden way in which we can like judge each other. Like, you know, people watching where you just sort of like watch people and you're like, I can guess things about that guy.
Yeah.
But language is, we do this really strongly and very subconsciously where we can hear how people talk and feel like we know things about them, even when we don't. So it's delicate little thing that's going on in our, you know, sort of hierarchical brains trying to think that and also our pattern matching brains where we want to understand things and like make them make sense. You know?
Yeah. One of the words is pho, which talking about like markers of, I don't know, of being cultured, right? Like somebody would see PHO with a diacritical on it and say pho, and you go, you're so stupid. Don't you know it's pronounced pho?
Yeah.
And then a native Vietnamese speaker would be like, it's not even close to pronounced pho. Also, if you're in the north and you're in the south, this is a tonal language, and it's literally, there's multiple different tones that are in that word.
Yeah.
And so it's this kind of weird thing. But my favorite part about that is there are so many pun-based pho restaurants. So you'll have like, you know, the Pho Kings. They make a great bowl of pho. But then there's some that only work if you pronounce it pho. And so when I go to Beverly Hills 9021 pho, I don't know what to say because the pun doesn't work with one. But then I'm just pronouncing it the low status way.
There's a Greek restaurant in Missoula. They used to wear buttons that said it's pronounced gyro. like big yellow
It's
buttons.
also not pronounced gyro. There's a subtle, you know, gyro. It's not pronounced
not quite
gyro.
pronounced, but it's not pronounced
It's
gyro.
not pronounced.
Then I understand thinking it's pronounced gyro.
I just want the crispy lamb and the pita.
Yeah, it's so good.
Damn it.
But yeah, I think that basically you could do it however.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it's a native speaker, it's interesting because like, is the English pronunciation of spaghetti, even if you are saying an Italian word and your native language is Italian? Like, is that a different word?
Yeah, when does it get like fully naturalized as... An interesting one with that is how we do plurals in America, like the word tamale, right? So the word tamale does not exist in Spanish. A singular tamale is a tamal. Multiple tamales are tamales.
Right.
But then so a single tamal is like, I'd like one tamal, I'd like two tamales. But then when we see tamales, we mostly eat multiple of them because they're delicious. And so we subtract that S because that's how we pluralize things in English, just add an S.
Yeah.
We say one tamale. But then if you go a layer even deeper, tamale is actually a Nahuatl word, which is a pre-Hispanic indigenous word. And the original word is indeed tamale. And so like, I don't know, man.
We took it back.
At some point, they're good. I like to buy them from the lady that comes around my neighborhood. She's nice. Yeah. I get the one with the peppers and the cheese in it.
Language is so strange.
Yeah.
And I think that like when it comes to, here's my rules. When it comes to like a thing or a place, say it however you say it. When it comes to a person's name, say it however they say it.
100%. And say whatever's going to get the least amount of people mad at you.
Yeah.
That's how you say things on the internet.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. And I think actually that's how a language actually works. So if like somebody says, you say tortilla, you will never say tortilla again. You'll say tortilla. I had a friend who was fully like 28 years old and I was like, you have to stop saying biscotti.
No, I'm on their side fully. Biscotti is hilarious.
Like we have to do like a quiet sit down and chat and be like, biscotti is not for grown-ups.
I have a friend that says breakfast instead of breakfast.
Oh, that's
and
great.
We've all adopted it. So now we have a whole friend group just saying like, what are we getting for breakfast this morning?
All right. Well, we didn't really settle that one, but it's fascinating.
I just wanted to complain. I
Do
just
you
wanted
ever
to feel seen.
feel like you're like people are interpreting you as being performative when you say bruschetta or whatever?
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Why do you just not do it? Why just don't you have a bruschetta? If I was at a restaurant and somebody ordered a bruschetta, I'd be like,
I don't roll the R, but I do say bruschetta.
Okay.
I do say bruschetta. I think what it is I would rather overshoot with the person whose native language it is in mind and at least show that I'm trying.
Yeah.
as opposed to undershoot and shade the other way.
I actually see this problem in young people learning foreign languages where they feel like it's trying too hard to speak the words in the accent.
It feels racist.
And I'm like, no, you gotta do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's real weird to hear you speaking Spanish in a pure American accent.
Yeah.
It's not the language.
And sometimes you fully miss a letter. Like, I'll hear a lot of people say like habanero. That's an entirely different letter. There's no enye. And the enye and the n are entirely different letters within Spanish. And so you're just fully missing pronunciation by trying to, I guess, overshoot. And it's just habanero,
I didn't know that.
right? Yeah. So sometimes by changing the accent, you're fully changing the letters that would be almost unrecognizable to some people.
Wild. But I understand. It's hard. Language is one of the weirdest, and like the amount of neurons and nerves that are dedicated to like my mouth doing this thing right now is very large.
Yeah.
It is very hard. It is completely understandable that we're bad at switching to other ways of pronouncing things. And it is universal, everybody does this, that we choose to use the constructions and the sounds that are most familiar to us. All right, Puzzle, what do you have for us?
All right. Oh, yeah, this one, this is big. I was doing a Family Feud game at VidCon, and the question was, what's something you put on a hot dog? And one of the top answers was nothing. So, is nothing something?
I had fun thinking about this.
Hank, chili was not one of the top answers, but nothing was.
Wow, how?
So is nothing something, and is that more than chili?
That's embarrassing.
Like follow-up.
Well, it's not more than chili, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What I can say for sure is they're not actually putting nothing on the hot dog. So if you created like a pure vacuum, you put that on the hot dog, there would be some kind of like explosion that would occur because the hot dog would get sucked into the vacuum and there would be a lot of kinetic energy being transitioned. So depending on the amount of nothing, you could have a real problem on your hands. So it's not nothing that they're putting on the hot dog.
True.
They're not putting anything on the hot dog, which is different than putting nothing on it.
I would agree with that.
So what we are creating here is like a set. It's an empty set. So you have the set of toppings that could be on a hot dog, and the set is empty, but the set exists. It is an empty set. That's how I'm interpreting it. So it is definitely
Does the hot dog have toppings on it then? If there's like an empty set, you're saying that there's like a set of toppings, the toppings happen to be nothing.
The set is all toppings that could be on a hot dog.
Okay.
And there's nothing in the set.
Got you.
So that there is still the category of topping. And this is the empty category of topping. This is like a mathematical thing too, where it's like empty sets matter and like you don't like pretend they aren't there because there's nothing in them. They're still doing work.
Yeah.
So yes, I think that nothing is a topping on a hot dog.
But that is not what these people are referring to.
No, they're saying that they're putting nothing on a hot dog. They're taking the idea of toppings.
Oh, okay.
And they're saying what is in the idea of toppings, and there's nothing in that category of topping. That is a state of a hot dog to be in. Toppingless.
Yes.
Do you want a hot dog?
I would love a hot dog.
Okay, let's have a hot dog.
This is what the hot dogs are for. Oh, this is exciting.
Oh, these are big boys.
I think now Costco hot dogs. Thank you for
Do you
getting
recognize
the hot
the
dogs.
hot dog?
Oh, 100%. Also, they told me they were going to Costco.
Oh, okay.
But also, I could recognize the Costco hot dog anywhere. I noticed that we have nothing on this hot dog, which does viscerally upset me.
There's nothing on the hot dog, but there's sesame seeds on the bun.
That's a good point.
Not bad.
It's a good hot dog. Sometimes I think the Costco hot dogs are too big, and I kind of want to enjoy the toppings more than the hot dogs, of which we have none. This hot dog is topped with
Is this
nothing.
upsetting for you?
No, it's actually kind of nice to meditate on the purity of the actual sausage meat inside.
I will say, you just said that there's nothing on the hot dog.
I know. No, it's an intuitive. You know what this, I think,
Nothing is very strange.
it frightens me all the time. You know,
The idea of like true nothing.
of true nothing. Well, that's why I get like death anxiety. Let's bring it back to that. It's just the idea of nothingness, right? The idea of an absence of self, which I think we almost can't even begin to imagine because we can't dissociate from the idea of self at all.
Remember before you were born? It's like that.
I wasn't having the best time.
Like the period of time between when you start the colonoscopy and when you wake up. It's like that.
I guess I've never gotten a colonoscopy.
Well,
I probably should with the amount of
You
hot
can't
dogs.
wait. It's great.
I'm pretty excited.
The actual colonoscopy part's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty
Because they give you the good stuff.
fun. You get to watch live.
You can actually. You can
Like
tell
a-
them to keep you up.
like
and
a
you can
follow-along
watch.
kinda?
In some places, they don't put you to bed, but in America, they do.
I've learned that if you just ask a surgeon to do something to entertain you, sometimes they will. So I got a surgeon to record the sound of my inflated scrotum being wrung out like a whoopee cushion.
Ooh.
That was pretty cool. I didn't think he'd do it, and he did.
Wait, did it make the noise first? And then you were like, can you record that? Like, do it again?
He just told me, well, I was trying to make jokes to try and calm my actual nerves. I'd never gotten surgery before. And he talked about the inflating my scrotum so he could really get in there and see how to push the intestines back through the hole. And then I think we don't hernia.
Get a hernia.
Yeah, I had that one. But yeah, and I was like, hey, how do you deflate it? And he's like, you kind of just got to squeeze the air out. And I said, does it make a silly sound like a whoopee cushion? And he said, no. And I said, can you record it and send it to me? And he said, haha, no, but I understand that you're nervous and this is why you're joking. And then I woke up and he goes, check it out, I recorded it. Yeah. Not dissimilar, but it's more just like, it's kind of a whine.
Last time I was getting a colonoscopy, I said, could you put the juice in real slow so I can enjoy it? And he did not like that joke.
Well,
I remember feeling really awkward, and I was like, "My bad." I did.
No, you got to shoot your shots. You know what I mean? You got to take big swings.
So my favorite part of getting colonoscopy is waking up and having my wife record me as I'm waking up from anesthesia. At which time I am the most delightful man. I'm like people walking by and I'm like anytime anybody comes in the room, I ask them like the same 3 dumb questions. I'm like, "What's your favorite animal?"
Little toddler Hank comes out.
It's good times.
When I came to, the first time ever being under anesthesia, I came to consciousness while giving a restaurant recommendation to the nurse. I literally came to consciousness and was like, the agua chile is really incredible. I think it's one of the top 3 micheladas. Where am I? And I told her to go to Coney Seafood in Inglewood.
Huh?
Most people say Coney Seafood, but I say Coney. Coney Seafood. You know? Get the agua chile y la pescado zarandeado.
So I got obsessed with the idea of nothing.
Okay.
And it turns out it's a really common concept throughout cultures. And also, weirdly, the word is almost always constructed the same way. So nothing is obviously etymologically very simple.
Mm-hmm.
No thing, which is very cool. To be like, it's kind of weird how easy it is to not make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
To walk around your whole life being like nothing, but then realize that it's just like the word no before the word thing.
Yeah, almost never thought about that until now.
Yeah, very common in other languages as well. Also, a good bit of the Swahili word for nothing already.
Matata.
Nah, hakuna.
Hakuna. It was one of the 2.
Yeah. So it's a hakuna
Oh,
kitu.
it means no. Damn it. I went with worries.
You did go with worries. And that literally means there is not something. Hakuna kitu.
And there is not something on this hot dog.
There is not something on that hot dog.
Can I tell you what? I have to reassess this question real quick. What I think I was thinking about this a lot when I was writing it and sending it to you as well. I think this you can also use as like a microcosm of like bad polling methodology.
Okay.
Because people will always see different political polls come out or whatever, and it'll be like 30% of people say they are against this.
Mm-hmm.
What that could have actually been is there were 5 different options on a continuum, and they chose the one right next to, they chose the, 3 out of 5 or the 2 out of 5 as opposed to 1 or the 5.
Mm-hmm.
And saying they don't favor one thing or the other doesn't tell the whole picture of the polling data.
Sure.
So somebody went around VidCon and must have asked, what do you put on a hot dog?
Mm-hmm.
And many people said, and more people said nothing than chili.
Yeah.
But then when you phrase the question, what's something you put on a hot dog?
Yeah.
You end up with this weird data point of nothing.
Right. Chili would be way higher. Nothing would be way lower. But nothing, I bet, would still be there. I bet some people would be like, what do you put on what's something you put on a hot dog? And they'd be like, nothing.
Yeah.
But what's something you put on the hot dog is the correct Family Feud way of asking the question. Like the people at Family Feud have figured this out.
Yeah.
Because that's much more the question.
I've never watched an episode of Family Feud, and then I was on this game. Same, and it's always like, in the butt, And I didn't say that.
I only see the part where the really fun thing happens.
I was just mad that we lost the Family Feud game at VidCon.
No.
Yeah. We lost to Crew. Shout out to Crew. They played a better game.
Oh, well.
I'm so much more comfortable
Eating
while talking to people. It's so funny.
You got used to that.
We go for the next question?
Yeah.
What was the first question ever asked?
Oh.
First person to ask a question.
So
Maybe it's not a person.
Yeah. Indeed. That is where we're headed. But to start, does it have to be verbal? Does it have to be words, do you think?
I don't think so at all.
Okay.
Especially given the fact that ASL exists.
Oh, for sure.
There's plenty of people communicate non-verbally.
Then probably it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But does it have to have both the asker and the answerer know that a request has been made?
Given the de jure reading of the question, no. Merely the question was asked.
The question only has to be. So this is really interesting. It looks like animals are better at answering questions than they are at asking them. So we can ask a parrot questions and it will answer that question. We can ask like Coco the gorilla questions and Coco will answer that question. But it's much harder to get those animals to ask you questions.
Interesting.
And there is some idea that this might be because of a thing called the theory of mind. So humans have what's called a theory of mind, where I have an idea that there's like a thing that is like me in you. And so I can inquire of it. And it might contain information that does not contain within me because like it's like me, but it's different from me. And that animals maybe don't have that. And that this might like be a big part of what it is to be a person. I'm a little surprised by this. Like I feel like it would be more likely to ask a question than to be able to answer it because like there's always stuff you don't know about the world. But it turns out that the asking is the rarer thing than the answering. And so it could be that like a question could be as simple as like looking at something and tilting a head and then like the thing, whatever it is, like a human ancestor or not, next to that being like, oh, like, let me show you, it's a safe thing, we'll go over and look. And like in that situation, neither of them maybe even really would need to know that a question was asked for the question to be asked. But in either case, the answer to the question is almost certainly, what's that?
Yeah, 100%.
Which is one of the first questions babies ask, and it probably is the first question babies ask. And they often do it before they can speak. Like they'll be like point at something and like make a upward, they'll have gotten some of our syntax without being able to speak, and they'll make like an upward noise.
Like Tim Allen from Home Improvement.
Yeah. Wow. I hadn't made that connection, but yeah, that's for the first question. It was the Tim Allen noise.
Yeah, arrested for cocaine possession?
Yeah, that's a great. Yes, exactly. It's the Tim Allen noise. It is the primordial Neanderthal grunt.
I love it.
That's like, what's going on here? Probably was the first question.
Do you think I have Neanderthal genes in me?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, just by the fact that you're of European ancestry, there's a lot of
that makes sense.
The Europeans, yeah. So unless there's like something weird going on with dolphins that we don't know about, which is possible.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on with dolphins.
For sure.
Yeah.
Probably this happened somewhere like 100,000 years ago. And it was probably like a big part of the evolution of like close-knit society, of humans relying on each other a lot, of language, of course, and of the sort of understanding that like all these other people who are around me are like me and rich on the inside and have access to things I don't have access to, which is, I mean, weird that it took that long.
It is weird that like animals are so bad at asking questions in certain ways. Yeah. It just, I don't know, this human exceptionalism is so crazy. I feel like I just smoked pot for the first time as like a 19-year-old in college. I'm just like, I remember watching someone just go, man, what if you like were a doorknob? And we're like, we're all just gonna go ahead and ignore that and move on, Kyle, but that's totally fine. But no, like this idea that the dumbest human I've ever met, and I met a guy who looked at a doorknob and said, what if I was that? And he is just smarter than the next most advanced creature by miles and miles.
You know, intelligence is weird. And there's a lot of aspects of intelligence that show up in the animal kingdom that are really surprising. Especially for like birds do some wild things that it feels like their brains are too small, that they shouldn't be able to do these things.
What's the wildest thing a bird does?
There's a lot of like cool, fun tool use going on in birds. They do seem to know that like people are independent actors and can be influenced. There's like birds that will like, if you're nice to them, they'll be nice back.
Is that the crows?
Yeah, they'll like bring you stuff.
I've learned to just never cross a crow.
All the corvids are wild.
No, I'm letting them cross the street.
Yeah, they'll drop nuts in areas so they get like run over by cars. They can get the inside of nuts, like nutshells. Yeah,
it's crazy.
And then like, of course, octopuses, very weird, very smart. But like, we're like, how's that even happening? Is like an intelligence that evolved entirely independently of us. Yeah. What about octopuses?
Octopuses as a plural.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Oh,
I go to the ancient Greek ktopodie.
Oh,
as a
good
plural.
for you.
So thank you.
You could do that if you'd like to. I mean, we find that you don't have any concerns about seeming pretentious.
Not at all.
So
Not at all. Speaking of pretend, I know a lot of people who won't eat ktopodie, who won't eat octopus.
Ktopodie?
Ktopodie.
Ktopodie.
Because you should say octopus is not octopi because octopus comes from Greek and that would be the correct way to Greek.
Yeah.
The correct way to pluralize it in Greek would be
feet,
ktopodie as opposed to ktopodia. So anyways, I know people that wouldn't
I'll just do it like I'm American. The weird thing about humans is that we aren't that weird in any one way. I feel like there's a lot of animals that are like right on the edge. Like we were not that long, maybe a couple million years from raccoons doing it, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to live in that world.
Yeah. Well, man, people talk bad about humans, which I get. But I feel like if raccoons did what we did, it would be way worse.
If anything, we are saving the earth from the raccoons. Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Mother Gaia, we did
much.
it. Yeah.
I just like want to go to like raccoon senate and be like, yeah, that's going to go great. I'm sure that'll be fine. I'm sure
grubby little hands.
Yeah.
They're like
that our people are doing fantastic. But
what's the Austin Butler race of people in Dune? The scary ones. You guys want to do? You know what I mean?
What are you talking about?
I got the Batista, the shaved head. They're the Harkonnens. They're the Harkonnens, which is just a
tiny
Finnish,
little Harkonnens.
It's just a Finnish last name, right?
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah.
Wild.
The Atreides are also, that's the last name of the clan. They're not like a different species. They just look like it.
They're not a different, the Harkonnens aren't a different species?
Fact check. I'm pretty sure they're the same species. They're all humans.
Why do they look like that?
They are the villains, and so they make them look scary and bad.
I thought they were different species.
Yeah.
Well.
I wrote in R-Har, and it auto-filled to me. Harkonnens human.
Wild.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They're just Finns.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. They're just a family of guys. Yeah.
Went the wrong direction.
Powerful family of guys. Yeah. Not nice people.
I feel satisfied with that.
Do you have any other Dune questions?
No, I watched those. I really enjoyed them, but I know nothing of the lore. Never read the books.
Well, the books are...
It's too many Dune books.
There's a lot going on.
Too many Dune books.
No, you don't have to read all of them.
Okay. Is there a scientific way to calculate the most delicious food in the world?
What a Josh
It's
question.
a very Josh question.
You know that there's not.
I know, but I want to know what the methodology is that can like get you the closest. Because there are similarities to how humans taste foods, you know?
So there's basically two ways. You could put somebody in an fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, which lets you not just see the inside of a person, but lets you see like what their blood is doing in their brain. You can give them food and you can see what's going on in there. At not particularly high resolution, but like maybe someday we'll have, we definitely will someday have higher resolution ways of doing this. And you could actually get a subjective sense of the sensations that are being experienced by the brain. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you will get probably better data if you say, how'd you like that?
Yeah.
Like scale 1 to 10. Where was that? Because the reality is, as you, with your show, so accurately portray, it's not just about what's happening to your tongue and your nose. Like, it's not just about the crunch, not just about the smell, it's not just about the taste, it's not just about the mouthfeel. It's about all of the experiences that we have had, and it's about like the story that we're telling about ourselves and the story that like what we're connected to. And you know, when you do the show, people are almost invariably telling you something that happened to them one time when they had that food.
Yeah.
And it's about that connection to like the whole human experience and about like what my mom used to do and the stories that I was told as a child. So that I think is as important as any of the rest of it, which is why I think that like, and this is what people actually do. Like flavor scientists do this.
Oh yeah.
They like sit down and they like give them food and they're like 1 to 10.
Yeah.
1 to 10 on like, all these different things. Like and like, that's pretty much still the best system we have to figuring out what the most delicious foods are. It's just asking people.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think totally heard you on the last meals thing of so many people have had intense connections to so many different foods.
Yeah.
For different reasons from
Right.
something.
And if there was like an objective best food, everyone would come on your show and they'd have the same meal.
True. I think there is a more scientific component to a lot of it in ways that people don't realize.
So
I
like
think
the flavor.
Yeah. Like which can create stronger taste memories. I think.
You want me to hit you with a weird thing that I like? Contrasts are great in food. Salty, sweet, crunchy, soft. I love hot, cold. And I have a thing where I used to have like a microwave corn dog every day coming home from high school. And I liked it when the hot dog was still cold, but the corn was hot.
And that's beautiful.
And I don't think that's where everyone else would put oh, that's delicious. But I'm like, I miss the cold hot dog.
But like, I wonder if there wasn't a flavor scientist that had devoted to shoving as much MSG into this force meat as possible, that you would have had that strong of a connection to it.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot, but Coca-Cola is the best example. It's the greatest tasting liquid in the history of liquids.
It's weird. They hit it so long ago.
They really did.
It's been the same for so long. I keep thinking like, how could they have possibly? But there was a bunch of other sodas.
Oh yeah,
Coca-Cola was just the best one.
Yeah.
And so it stuck around.
Tons that predated it. Yeah. I think maybe the closest thing after that is like Armenian tarragon soda. It's really wonderful.
I can't wait to try that.
Oh my God, it's great. Only if you love tarragon like I do.
Which one is tarragon?
Tarragon, it's kind of like it's a little bit licoricey.
Yeah.
But not super licoricey, like more just kind of fragrant and fun. But they were the closest, God bless them, to Coca-Cola. But like scientifically, it's so perfect from the acid, from the carbonic acid to the tartaric acid to just high fructose corn syrup. I didn't think high fructose corn syrup was like a big issue. I think people still overblow it nutritionally a little bit.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that I think it was a Japanese scientist who figured out how to synthesize it first in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And when he tasted it, he said something very Oppenheimer-esque that was like, the natural bounds of sweetness have been forever torn asunder or something. Because he did. It was nothing, that sweet should have ever existed. And now it does.
Yeah.
And, he has become destroyer of, I don't know, enamel or something.
Yeah, destroyer of enamel and also metabolism.
Yeah.
But, original Coke didn't have that.
Yeah, just sugar and cocaine.
Yeah, I guess original soda. Obviously, there are some things that we're balancing when we're making good food. So, like, you probably know them. There's the flavors.
Those flavors exist.
What are they? What are the ones I can taste with my tongue?
Oh, salty, sweet, bitter,
Sour.
acidic, sour, and then umami. That taste. And then the compelling evidence actually to believe that fat is indeed a sixth taste.
Oh.
Rats proved it again.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying shoot.
Very apathetically, rats. Rats.
like you were really on the other side of that
I was
fight.
over-indexed on fat not being a taste.
You really lost that battle with the flavor people. And then there's all the things going on in the nose, and then there's all the things going on with the crunch and the sweet. And if you ask me scientifically what's the most delicious thing, it's like sweet hot chicken sandwich,
Yeah.
Fried chicken with sweet on it.
I think I do probably
Buttered
agree
bun.
with that. And again, fried chicken is kind of the universal food.
Yeah.
Everyone really, really loves it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's good. You can see why we did that to those birds.
They deserved it.
Well, yeah, they deserved it.
They're pretty stupid.
They have kind of taken over the world.
You mean in terms of
There's just a lot
commodity
of them.
birds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At any given moment, there's more chickens in America than people.
Yeah, I'd believe it. We need more rabbits. For eating,
I
specifically.
know that's what you mean.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know. Thought I wanted to.
I feel bad about it because of the thing. How nothing makes sense.
Because of how delicious they are? Yeah, of course.
Well,
man.
I've met some. They look
You've
away.
never met a chicken?
I've met chickens and they're not cute. Like bunnies.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I did interview, this man obviously had his biases because he was a farmer of meat rabbits.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, I got pet chickens. They're way cuter and more intelligent than these stupid ass rabbits. And I was like, I don't know if that's you needing to justify this.
Yeah.
But rabbits, great, low carbon emission.
Yeah,
per
I
gram of protein.
wish we could eat more bugs because I really don't feel like they deserve much.
Have you seen Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
I think.
Get them out. Bug murders.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Green.
And we do eat, people eat lots of bugs. We also eat sea bugs and we're fine with that.
We had a long discussion about sea bugs. It's maybe my favorite food out there.
And they're great.
Land bugs, sea bugs are an entry to land bugs too, because then you just start seeing them as land shrimp. And
If you can get a big enough bug, it's just a land shrimp.
truly, have you had chapulines?
No.
The Mexican fried cricket or grasshopper? Just fry them, dust them in chili lime salt, rip some mezcal, eat chapulines. It's great.
I'm sorry I didn't bring any mezcal for you. I should have brought you bugs though. I should have known.
Yeah.
I've had crickets before, but I found it to be heavy on the chitin.
You put enough tahini on the chitin though. It's fine.
Suddenly it's okay.
Literally.
Well, I feel like I learned a lot talking to you today, Josh.
I feel like I did too. I can't wait to watch this back and take notes on my own experience.
You're a delightful conversationalist.
I agree with that entirely. If you can't love yourself, who can you love? No, truly, man, this is absolutely fantastic, dude. I had the best time. And thank you for the hot dog. I almost wanted to dip them into my water.
Because they were so dry?
No. It was just because I've never done that. And I've been to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And
I just tried to speed eat a hot dog for the first time, and I, a little bit, I think, injured myself.
He is not the throat goat, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what they say.
He is not.
They say low on the low tier throat goat.
Throat goat.
It's the title of the episode.
You have a lot of other things you're good at, Hank.
Yeah, thanks. If you want to leave comments on this episode, you could do that, and I will answer some of your questions. And by which I mean not just comments, but also questions, because I love questions, which is why I do this show. If you upvote the ones that you like, I'll pick the ones in the top and I'll answer them, or I'll just go through if I don't see any and answer a bunch. We can find Josh at what's the YouTube channel that your stuff is on?
Well, the YouTube channel that my stuff is on is called Mythical Kitchen. It's a fun time. We have a show called Last Meals. We've had both the Brothers Green on.
It was truly one of the most lovely days of my life.
That really means a lot, man.
It was so cool to get to just eat amazing food.
Funny Easter egg, I wore the same exact outfit when I interviewed your brother and you. Not a single comment has ever recognized that. So please go comment. Wow, Josh, that's a great waffle mesh polo t-shirt that you wore with both the Green brothers.
Thanks for trying something out new for us today.
Yeah, I got my pre-sweated purple shirt on.
Okay, show me your foot bump.
Okay.
Weirdo.
It hurts real bad.
Ooh.
This is a lot less cute than I thought it would be.
A lot of the show has been telling people to go to the doctor. Thank you for being on Ask Ink Anything. Thank you for watching Ask Ink Anything on youtube.com/complexly. If you want to ask a question in the comments, upvote the ones you like. I'll answer some of those over the next few days. I love answering questions, and I loved having you on.
I love being here. I have one last question. Do you think that could have happened because I don't wear socks?
Look, that's outside of my area of expertise.
We got to do it.
Okay, the hell? For just a second, though?
Can you get your hands down so
Yeah.
it's just a dog?
That's very like all dreamy. Like this is, you've been waiting for this.
I was about to go down my throat.
I really got it in there.
I went way
Throat
too
goat
deep.
Josh Scherer over here.
You didn't even...
I did not. I just
You can see the... You're like a ballistics analyst right now.
Thanks for watching. You can support Complexly and get bonus videos from Ask Ink Anything and more by going to complexly.org/support. Also, if you want to see more of what we're up to, you can join the Complexly newsletter by visiting complexly.org.